On this episode of the Turnbuckle, Triple H announces the revival of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. CM Punk reportedly visited last night's Raw and was asked to leave, and there were multiple segments involving female talent that were again cut from Raw. Folks, we're reading your favorite wrestling movement and wrestling news because it's time for the Turnbuckle. On Saturday, May 27th, a brand new WWE World Heavyweight Champion will be crowned. Triple H teased a major announcement ahead of the April 24th edition of Raw, and after praising the current reign of undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, he delivered on it by reviving and revealing a new incarnation of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. With the draft set to return, starting this Friday on SmackDown, Triple H announced that Reigns will take his undisputed WWE Universal Championship to whichever show drafts him. As for the holder of the new title for the other show, that will be decided at the Night of Champions event in Saudi Arabia. This will be a champion you can be proud of, Triple H declared. This will be a champion you can respect, that you can admire. This will be a champion that will defend this championship anywhere, anyplace, anytime, all over the world. Then, in a not-so-subtle dig at Reigns, he finished his announcement by saying, "This champion will not have to demand your acknowledgement. This champion will earn your acknowledgement and will earn the title of World Heavyweight Champion." So, let's go back. So Triple H comes out, and me and my brother are like, oh, he's talking about an announcement. What could the announcement be? You know, like there's a lot of different things that he could potentially be talking about. And I thought that he was going to talk about Night of Champions. No, he just said Night of Champions. He didn't specify as to why Night of Champions is now Night of Champions, right? He didn't really say anything about King and Queen of the Ring. He just said on Night of Champions, and I was just like, okay. And then as he's talking, the camera like pans over and he's about to reveal it, and I'm like, yes, the World Heavyweight Championship, and he takes it off, and what the hell is that? What is that? Because man, that title looks, at least to me, it looks bad. It looks like a very bad title. They did the same thing that they did with all the other titles. They had something really nice looking, and they just slapped the WWE logo on it, and it's very gaudy. It's just a very gaudy looking belt. And I don't know, man. It just doesn't scream World Heavyweight Champion to me. Like, the World Heavyweight Championship was like this big, like, you know, super gold, you know, heavy looking belt that, like, you know, Edge and Cena and Randy and Batista and The Undertaker. And this, I don't know, man. This just doesn't look like a very nice looking belt. And then on top of that, I scurried over to Reddit, you know, like the little rat boy that I am, and everybody was just like, oh, this is an insult because, you know, so everybody is screaming and crying because they are pretty much seeing this as like, hey, we can't take the belt off of Roman, so here you go, have that, you know. And a lot of other, I will say this, it's very mixed. The reactions on it are very mixed. Some people are like, it's really good, and I like this for the division, and other people are like, I hate it, you know, and I don't understand why they're doing this for Roman. So a lot of people are asking the very good question of like, does that mean there's 3 titles now? And I don't think that's the case. I think that at some point there's going to be a match, and they're going to unify the belts at some point, and I can only imagine what that's going to look like. Okay, that's what the championship looks like, and we're just going to have to see how the build happens to, you know, the 2 superstars who are going to compete for. A lot of people are saying it should be Seth Rollins. Some people are joking that Omos is going to take it. So also a lot of people are complaining that like there's not that many like wrestlers, like top tier wrestlers other than Rollins who are not in a storyline right now who are like, you know, capable of taking it. So only time will tell. I assume it's going to be Rollins and someone else. So only time will tell who that's going to be. So next, we're going to talk about CM Punk and how he was reportedly visited last night's Raw, but was asked to leave. Punk was reportedly visiting unnamed people backstage, though the report does state that Punk met with Triple H, which marks the first time the two have reportedly met since Punk walked out of WWE in 2014. Punk reportedly met with several people and was eventually asked to leave the arena, which PW Insider says was a Vince McMahon decision that Punk adhered to without protest. A video purportedly showing Punk outside the arena was later posted on Twitter. Fightful Select later added its own reporting, confirming that Punk had spoken briefly with Levesque backstage before Raw. The report added that Punk also met up with several talents, including The Miz, and wrestlers backstage at Raw were reportedly viewing Punk's unexpected appearance as a publicity stunt. On the flip side, some AEW talents were said to be, quote, in disbelief after hearing the news. I love when I love, because I saw this, and all I saw was Tamina. I had no idea who that guy was. I thought it was like Tamina's boyfriend or something. I'm like, oh, it's Tamina. Because somebody was like, the post was like, oh, fucking so-and-so is on Raw. I don't know why I swore. And I was just like, oh, cool, Tamina's here. Great, awesome. Maybe that means she's going to be in a segment. No, it was Punk. So, that's good to know that I guess I just have face blindness, but that would mean that I don't know what they look like even when I'm looking at them. So, never mind. So, at first, I thought the report that he was asked to leave was false. And I thought that they were just saying that just for like heightened drama. But no, he was asked to leave. He was greeted warmly. I heard that he was greeted warmly. And there's a lot of people that thought that it was a publicity stunt. I don't think that that's true. That's a very coincidental publicity stunt. I mean, it's hard to call it a publicity stunt when he lives in Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, also Mustafa Ali's from Chicago. So, why couldn't it just be, why couldn't he be there supporting his own Chicago? I don't know. No drama, no fighting and hair pulling and biting and all that sort of stuff. No closed fists. And he was there, and then he left. He got kicked out. That's it. Finally, we're going to be talking about multiple segments involving female talent that were again cut from Raw. According to PW Insider Elite, some of the female talents, namely Candice LeRae, Piper Niven, Sonya Deville, Tamina, and Zelina Vega, were most impacted by the McMahon-ordered rewrites. While LeRae and Niven were slated to appear in a segment together, presumably to advance their recent rivalry, Adam Pearce was scheduled to be involved in a backstage segment with several female stars, one of whom was to be Deville. However, both segments were scrapped and the time was reportedly allotted to a backstage confrontation between Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair and Damage Control, which ultimately set up a 6-woman match for later on the show. The report by Mike Johnson also said that Tamina, who was backstage at the taping, could have been another whose backstage segment was cut, but Johnson couldn't confirm the same. Meanwhile, Vega was also backstage but did not appear alongside her LWO stablemates, Santos Escobar, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde, who wrestled the Bloodline in a 6-man match. Vega is currently in a rivalry with SmackDown Women's Champion Rhea Ripley, who also did not appear on Monday's show. Vega could have been kept off Raw due to Ripley's absence and could appear on the Blue brand later this week. The scrapping of segments involving female talents is becoming somewhat of a trend. According to PW Insider, several female wrestlers were left off the April 17th Raw as well, drawing the ire of talents who were upset that the changes happened late in the day and were brought about by late rewrites. It now remains to be seen if the trend will continue going into next week's Raw, which will be the final stop before Backlash. I don't really get that, because literally just before the show started, somebody was like, oh, I go on Reddit for like all of the quick up-to-date news on the stuff that's happening. I mean, listen, all right, if you're like me and like you don't always have your ear to the streets, Squared Circle on Reddit definitely will definitely keep you up to date. And also you can get like a first-hand, what's the word? Like you can pretty much see what everybody's like thinking about certain stuff, you know what I mean? So I saw a Reddit post and they were like, oh, no, Vince is making major changes to Raw and stuff like that. The first change that I saw, the first thing that I assumed was a change that I'm pretty sure everybody else assumed, was the Cedric match, the Cedric Shelton match. As soon as I saw Cedric's fucking craven looking ass, I was like, oh yeah, this is a Vince McMahon segment. I didn't think that the Damage Control Bianca segment was a Vince McMahon thing. I was under the assumption that, I was worried that it was going to be Io Sky versus Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship like immediately. I was worried that was going to happen, and then it sort of turned into like a storyline thing, and that's about it. I really don't care because I was just worried that it was going to be a lot worse than it was, and it wasn't as bad. I was expecting the major changes to be like absolutely terrible. I was expecting somebody was like, all 3 hours are going to be taken up by Omos. I was like, listen, all right, that's not bad. But that's what I was like expecting. I was expecting like levels of that, of just unnecessary segments, and people going out there, and making themselves look like a bunch of doofuses and all that sort of stuff. So I was very worried about, what the show could have been, and I'm just glad that what we got, it wasn't really that bad. The Raw wasn't like super duper absolutely stellar, but also it wasn't like an absolute letdown and a big wet fart, so I'm just happy about that. What do we talk about? Triple H announces the revival of the World Heavyweight. This thing looks ugly, man. It's ugly. I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. I wish that it was just the World Heavyweight Championship. The pop. Can you imagine the pop? If it was just a big gold belt. Can you imagine? If it was just no belts and whistles, right? No smoke and mirrors, just the World Heavyweight Championship. I'd have been so happy. I was so ready to just hop out of my seat, and it was that. It was so bad. It was so terrible. This is like when they revealed the Universal Championship, and it was just big and red, and everybody was like, oh, you know. It was. I hate it. I hate the way it looks. CM Punk was reportedly backstage. I mean, not really much happened. A lot of people are just really like, you know, screaming and crying because it's CM Punk, and I guess the only real, you know, what's the word, like, thing you can go off of is the fact that he done did it for yeah, she done already had hers for a publicity stunt, and it's just like, no, it's Chicago, you know, he lives there. I don't know if you guys know this. When the announcers say where they're from when they come out, that's really where they're from. I don't know if you know that. Okay, wrestling's predetermined. So nothing really happened. I do like that he talked to The Miz and they, you know, hashed everything out. I like that Vince was like, hey man, get out of here, you know, not because you're CM Punk, but because you're AW, and you know. And CM Punk was like, yeah, sure, fair enough, you know, no problem with that. He caused absolutely no ruckus of any kind, you know. So that's good to hear. And multiple segments were cut involving female talent. I don't know why. Why were they cut? What were they cut for? Why were segments taken out and other segments were put in? Why did we get a Street Profits versus... I'm not opposed to a Street Profits Cedric Shelton match, but we haven't seen Cedric and Shelton in like months. So why all of a sudden are they all in the show? Why do we not get a Piper Niven and LeRae match? At least there's something going on, right, with their rivalry. I don't necessarily know why we just got like a random match that had like nothing to do with anything. It just doesn't make any sense. That's the only thing that I'm like remotely confused about. It's just like you cut the segment for like really no good reason. You know what I mean? Like, you took stuff out and kept stuff in. And it doesn't make any sense to me. You could have cut out the World Heavyweight Championship segment, all right? Jeez Louise. God, I would have gone home feeling a lot better not having to see that belt. I'll tell you something right now. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful tonight and a wonderful tomorrow. And as always, big hugs. Big hugs all around.